turn our attention to education. This time, the Ghana Education Service has this afternoon come under heavy criticism from the National Association of Graduate Teachers over its directive to the Achimota School to readmit 2 Rastafarian students, warning it could set a bad precedent. The GES directed the school to admit the students after initially refusing to admit them last week. The school insisted its rules did not allow for students to have dreadlocks. We'll hear from Nagrat shortly, but first, we can hear from the spokesperson for the GES, Cassandra Chumampofo, explaining that directive.
We have directed the school to admit the 2 students, the 2 Rastafarians, if I may put it that way. Yes.
Why?
Well, we heard that they've been denied of admission, and we thought that that wasn't the right decision by the school. Our mandate as Ghana Education Service is to provide quality education to every Ghanaian child, irrespective of its political, religion, and ethnicity, and what have you. So if the school has to engage the parents, it's not the first time we are having Rastafarians in the schools. It's all about internal communication. It's all about engaging the parents and advising the students and helping them wash their hair, bleach them, keep the hair neat. Once they focus on their studies and it doesn't affect anything in councils, we feel that the school has to admit them. This is not the first time. We've had Rastafarians, some of them in some of the senior high, they have completed. Currently, we have 1 or 2 in some of our senior high schools, and we don't have any issues with them.
Now, if Achimota School has a rule like this, then it's possible that people in the past have been denied admission and we were not aware as a country. Does the GES intend to take any action against the school?
No, well, that hasn't come to our attention anyway. So if they have turned off some people in the past, we didn't hear of that. And what has come to our attention is what we have told them to.
Cassandra Chumampofo there speaking for the Ghana Education Service in that interview with my colleague Daniel Datsi over the weekend. So after all this, today the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, is demanding the immediate reversal of this directive from the Ghana Education Service. The union says the directive is a threat to conformity and discipline in schools. It argues that this amounts to deregulating the school system, which will result in chaos. Listen to NAGRAT's president, Angel Kabono. He's been making the point at a press briefing earlier today.
The headmistress and the staff of Achimota did not deny the young man admission. They rather spelled out to the young man the rules and regulations of Achimota Senior High School. We cannot begin this day to start making exemptions for individual students based on their beliefs, based on their culture, based on their tradition, and based on many other issues. That will lead to a chaotic school environment. Because of this, NAGRAT disagrees totally with the position of the management of the Ghana Education Service. And we are calling on the Ghana Education Service to redirect the headmistress and the staff of Achimota Senior High School to ensure that the rules and regulation of Achimota Senior High School, and indeed any other senior school, is abided by every student. Let me repeat that we are calling on the Director General and the management of Ghana Education Service to redirect the management of Achimota Senior High School to ensure that the students, and indeed everybody, abide by the rules and regulation of the school. We are also calling on parents to know that every school has its own rules and regulation, and they should read the rules and regulations of each school before they allow their children to apply to those schools. Now, people are talking about human rights. Let me inform everybody that human rights is better ensured in an environment of rules and regulation.
Mr. Kabono is also challenging people who disagree with the status quo to proceed to court.
NAGRAT welcomes anyone who will want to go to court on this issue and on issue of discipline in our schools. But that when that court issue comes up, NAGRAT will attach itself because we are an interested party. That court case will not be limited into the wearing of Rasta. It will be expanded into the establishment of rules and regulation of our schools. If the courts decide that everybody can do whatever he or she likes, you will all be our guests as teachers. We will also develop ways and means of ensuring that we have proper chaotic school environment. But until then, we expect that all school rules are to be obeyed. NAGRAT solidarizes with the management and teachers of Achimota Senior High School and any other senior high school to ensure that the school rules are obeyed. If any teacher feels intimidated, if any management feels intimidated or is intimidated, the full weight of the union will be brought in support of that management and those teachers in those schools. Thank you very much.
That's the president of NAGRAT, Angel Kabonu. We also know that the All Students Association of the Achimota School, Accra, has issued a statement requesting that the board of the school is allowed to take a decision on the matter. We'll get the statement shortly to you, but I've been joined on the phone by the Rastafari Council. Earlier, they threatened to sue the school to compel it to respect the religious rights of the student. TETTEH, WAYO, George TETTEH is lawyer for the Rastafari Council. He joins us via phone. Thank you very much for your time here on the post. I first want a quick clarity. Since the GES directive, these students, have they been admitted to the school? Do we know?
Thank you very much, madam, and good afternoon to your cherished listeners. It's good you have asked this question to start my contribution to this all-important topic or subject. The information we are getting this afternoon is that the parents of the two students, Mr. Aswad Krabia and Mr. Teroy, they were supposed to have a meeting with the GES as well as the Achimota headmistress or administration at the GES office. But I think it's Mr. Aswad Krabia who was able to attend. He just came out of the meeting some few minutes ago and made me understand as counsel for the case is that the GES first has indicated that the so-called directive that the citizens of this country saw in publication some few days ago was just to quell the public outburst and then the media discussion. And so therefore, the GS really didn't mean what they said. That's number one. Number two, the Achimota headmistress has gone on record in this meeting sticking to the position that they would want the kids to cut off their dreadlocks before they can enter the school. So this is the latest information coming from this meeting. And so Ghana should be aware of how the matter has now unfolded. And at this meeting, the GS supported the position of the Achimota headmistress. So as I speak with you now, I can confidently and authoritatively state on your network, in fact, Joy FM is the first network to hear the current twist of the matter, that the GES publication we all saw some few days ago, in my word now, I can say was a facade. It was a fluke. It was just to deceive the citizens of this country to believe that the GES is stepping in to restore peace, only for it to be told today at the meeting that it was just to quell the media outburst, but the GES didn't mean it, and therefore the Achimota school's position that the kids have been admitted, but they must cut off their dreadlocks before they come. That's the only way they can come onto the campus. The GES supports that. So that is the latest in respect of that matter.
Now, that's interesting to hear because over the weekend, we spoke to the GES PRO, Cassandra Chumampofo, and she made it very clear that the GES is not in support of that decision for the students not to be admitted because of their dreadlocks. They've directed Achimota School to admit these students. And you're saying that they've just come out of a meeting and they were told that the boys will still have to cut their hair before they are admitted?
And that is the surprise that has hit us as victims in this matter, and as well the Rastafari Council is very much surprised at this latest development. My sister, it is really a disservice to this country if senior citizens of this country, who are managers of our public institutions, sometimes can even deceive the entire nation to the extent of getting the entire country to believe one thing and just in a few days turn around and put up a position that indicates that we didn't really mean what we said before.
Okay.
It's really a surprise.
But I would want a quick clarity. Was the GES in this particular meeting, or
yes.
that was communicated to you by Achimota School?
No,
did we have a representative of GES in there?
The meeting was held at the GES office.
Okay.
And it was the GES that called for the meeting for the two parties. That is the parents of the students and then the headmistress of Achimota School. So headmistress of Achimota School was there, and Mr. Ras Aswad Krabia was there. And this is what transpired in the meeting, that he brought the matter up that you have given a directive. And then the GF deputy director, one of the deputy directors who chaired the meeting, was clear that that was just to quell the media outburst and to bring some bit of calm environment in the country. But the GES will still stand with the headmistress of Achimota's position that she will only take the young Ghanaians on if they cut off their dreadlocks. So
okay.
It simply means that the GES, 2 days ago, whatever they said, have now made a U-turn and trying to indirectly, more or less, not indirectly now, they're trying to bring out that they really didn't mean what they said. Because if the kids can only go to Achimota School based on the headmistress's position that they must cut their dreadlocks, then whatever was in that communique or that publication was a facade, was a fluke.
Well, as lawyer for the Rastafari Council in this particular case, what then happens with this backtracking by the GES, as you put it?
Yeah, so that's the first point of reference to that position. We have just made clear on your network that we are very surprised as to how persons who have such high respect and reputation in dealing with such national matters will want to say something today to the citizenry, to the entire nation, and within a few days make a U-turn. It reduces their reputation, it reduces the trust we have in these public institutions, and that alone gives us the leverage to look at the alternatives. But the other scenario now is that we now understand that from what the president of NAGRAD, Mr. Kabonu, just said on your platform, he said that you have played on your platform.
Exactly, I was just going to that.
Yes,
they've raised concerns about how it sets a bad precedent, and that they do not support the fact that GES directive for them to go to the school with their dreadlocks, and that it opens the floodgates for everyone to do what they like in terms of what they believe in and their culture.
Yeah, so that is what we are saying, that it seems that this position by NAGRAD is what has informed the GES U-turn, because you could see in Mr. Kabonu's submission that whether he was threatening or sending a signal to the GES. In fact, we all listened to what you played. It seems he was threatening the GES. He was sending a signal to the GES. In fact, he was commanding the GES to do the opposite. If not, NAGRAD will have to advise itself. And that's the sense we get from Mr. Kabonu's presentation. That now it takes Mr. Kabonu and his NAGRAD to warn or threaten the Ghana Education Service that if you do that, then we will also have to do something. That is the sense we are getting from his presentation. Okay. And we think that is what has informed the GES to make this a U-turn.
Okay.
The second issue is that we find some flaws in Mr. Kabonu's presentation. The two quick flaws in his submissions are: one, if he tries to make a law or a policy in an institution superior and powerful than the Constitution, then he's making a mistake. The Constitution is very clear that any law that is inconsistent, that contravenes provisions of the Constitution, will be declared void or null. If Achimota School is a school that has its policies, Achimota School's policies or rules or regulations cannot supersede the Constitution. So if Mr. Kabonu goes on to say that parents and Ghanaians should be aware that every school has its rules and regulations, we all know that. But nowhere will those rules and regulations supersede the Constitution. So that's a major flaw in Mr. Kabonu's submission, and that is misleading and erroneous to the citizens of this country. Okay. The second flaw is when he goes on the tangent that if this is done, if the GES allowed this to be done, then NAGRAD will have a problem dealing with issues on campus, and therefore everybody will have to do what they want. The flaw here is this: nobody is doing what they want. These are kids who are Rastafari. They are Rastafarians. That's their culture. That's their religion. That's what they profess. That's what they practice.
Okay, just for me to understand, and I've seen a lot of people ask this particular question, is Rastafarianism in the dreadlocks? Will anything happen if they have to cut it like the school is saying? They really want to go to Achimota School. Yes, we understand the rights, but the school says these are our laws. You can't come to the school with that kind of, hair, they say. Will anything happen? What decision will these boys take?
The analogy here is this. It will be very difficult for me to speculate what will happen.
No, I'm just asking if Rastafarianism is in the dreadlocks.
No, it is not in the dreadlocks, but it is part of the profession or practicing of the culture and that religion. Let me give you a classical example. All Roman Catholics think that they must do with the rosary. But you might see some Roman Catholic without the rosary. But can you tell the Pope? Can you tell the Archbishop? Can you tell every top ardent Roman Catholic that don't move with your rosary? It will not be possible.
But Mr. TETTEH, WAYO, are you a Rastafarian?
Yes, I am.
And do you wear dreadlocks?
I've worn locks before.
But if you go to court, you're not wearing it now. Why are you not wearing it now? Can you go to court with the dreadlocks?
Personal attributes.
But does it change the fact that you're a Rastafarian?
No, it doesn't change the fact that I'm a Rastafarian. It also doesn't substantiate the fact that I must do away with the regardless of my practice.
Okay.
If I decide, like I gave you a classical example, can you tell a Roman Catholic, an ardent Roman Catholic, to live and practice his profession without the rosary? That will not be possible.
But will you be allowed to go to court? Will you be allowed to go to court with your dreadlocks?
Come again.
I'm asking if you'll be allowed to go to court in the dreadlocks.
That will be up to the court. And the point is that these are some of the backwardness of our society. But as I speak to you, we have a lawyer who practices in some area, and he has a log. He came into the jurisdiction and did a post-call. In other jurisdictions, in other countries, there are persons with dreadlocks. And let me once again go on record on your network. I was the first young person to go to KNUST with my dreadlocks, very young age in the dreadlocks. I did the entry exams. And in fact, one of your colleagues, my learned friend Samson Ladi, was my classmate at KNUST when we did our LLB. And we start for the same entry exams. When we start for the entry exams, we have to go for interview. When I went for the interview, the current dean of the UPS Law School, Professor Abochi, was one of the young lecturers on campus. He sat with three persons to interview me. Professor Oforia Mankwa was a reverend professor at the time wearing his cassock. When I appeared before them, I took off my covering on my hair. And one of the lecturers asked, but you wear these locks? And I said, yes, I wear these locks, and that is my way of life now, the practice I believe in. Now, during the interview, there was no qualms. The only question that came, and Professor Abochi made it clear that in Ghana, this might not be appropriate as society sees it, but in other jurisdictions, these things are not a problem, and the world is moving on. I passed my interview and went to start my law profession training in the school. So the point is simply that when society keeps holding on to issues that do not matter, that's why we have a problem. If these young guys could be Ghana's astronauts tomorrow, if these two guys, because the guy who has 6, the possibility of he reading science is clear. Now, if this young chap who wants to do science with his 6 can be Ghana's astronauts tomorrow, we are just stopping this young man's future because of his hair. Okay. Are we backwards or we are moving forward?
Well, so are they still pursuing, would they still want to go to Achimota School considering the uproar and everything that has happened, or they are going to consider other options? What exactly will happen going forward?
I mean, the point is that the conduct that is happening now from Achimota's disposition is a battle. And we know that in human society, challenges and battles, as council, I've made it clear to the parents that these are the challenges and the battles that your young child at age 16 will have to go through. They have to educate themselves. If Achimota is not ready to open their doors, we will advise ourselves from today's meeting. Now we know the position that the GES and Achimota are adamant in respect of the constitutional provisions, in respect of a child's education, the consistency of the Constitution and all that. We will test that in the court of law. Okay. So that must be on record on your network that we have no option than to test that in the court of law. The courts of Ghana will have to pronounce and interpret these provisions, whether Achimota School's internal rules supersede that of the Constitution. It's only a court of law that will determine that. So that option is non-negotiable. We're not negotiating that because We need to bring a final closure to this matter.
How soon will that happen?
It should happen very soon. But in the midst of that, the kids will still go to other schools. We know other schools will still admit them. The young man who has 6, he's a part of a triplet.
Okay.
His 2 sisters, they have gotten admission at St. John's Grammar. So there are schools out there that are opening up. There was a young man in Kumasi, Okesh. As of last Friday, he was facing the same scenario. But the information we are hearing this morning is that he's gone to school, and I think he's gone through his process. So if Achimota School wants to be adamant, if Achimota School, when Kwejira Gray and our forefathers were building Achimota School, they built it with the idea to churn out, to educate the black man, to educate our people. They did not build Achimota School with the notion that somebody's dreadlock must stop him from becoming Ghana's first astronaut, Ghana's first top scientist. You see, the point is this: when we put substantive justice, substantive matter to the back burner and deal with triviality, it makes the society a laughing stock. Here we are, this same Achimota School. We can go into Achimota's archives and get a record of kids who have come to this school and have gone around the rules. Let me use a clear example of, for example, Indian kids or kids from the West who are girls who have their hair. Some of them have gone to this Achimota School and have completed. Their hairs were not cut. They went through this school with their hair. This same school would deny a Ghanaian child with a little afro to go and cut her hair. What is Mr. Kabunu talking about? When those Indian kids went to Achimota with their hair on, and the Ghanaian girl was told to go and cut her afro down, where was Mr. Kabunu, and what was the position of NAGA?
Well, Mr. George TETTEH, we'll leave it here. Thank you very much. That's a valid point there, and it's an argument that most of us have made. But we're grateful. That's lawyer for the Rastafari Council, George TETTEH. We call him Ras WAYO. But let me go on Zoom now and bring in Ben Kobler. He's an international education consultant with experience, vast experience in this, in education and all these issues coming up. So I'm curious. You know a lot with the UK education, the Cambridge system and all, but I'm sure you have thoughts about this particular issue that has come up at Achimota School, not wanting to admit students because they have dreadlocks. But you heard the lawyer mention that when we have children from the West coming to the schools, they are not allowed to cut their hair. What exactly are your thoughts on this issue?
Thank you very much, Emma. And I think I would say I'm very privileged to be part of this discussion today. My thought, if you would ask me, but I'll take the route of the law, if that's very clear. I think at this stage, we should all calm down. Let's have a cool head and then give opportunity to review the school policies or the school behavior policies that we currently have in Ghana, just as to do with any other issues that comes up within the school systems. I think there are 3 key issues we need to address here. And the 4th one is a question in relation to all these issues. So scores of different people are talking about human rights issues here. What's the child's human right? Are we infringing on the child's human right? People are also talking about religious grounds. That's his religion. He's entitled to that. And people are also talking about the SDG goals. That if you look at SDG 4 and you look at SDG 10, it talks about inequality and also to do with quality education. So are we infringing on all these rights? But the key question is to do with whether are we infringing on the constitutional right of this child? Now, there's a similar case that happened in Jamaica in July 2018, where an injunction was actually put on a school to allow a child to go to school until the Supreme Court of Jamaica had to resolve this issue. And so from what the lawyer for the Rastafarian Society said, they want to take the law, they want to go to the courts and seek proper representation of the boy. And so at this stage, I will call for cool heads. I will call for GES to do the right thing. I will call for the Rastafarians to also do the right thing. if the court is what they seek to go, they have the right to do so. But this is very fundamental, and it's fundamental because when issues are not dealt with properly, you get conflicting reports, and that's a clear example of what is happening as we listen to NAGRAT, we listen to GES, and we listen to the Rastafarian community. And so for me, speaking from the legalistic point of view, I think there are a number of things that the GES, the schools, the teachers, and the community at large need to actually do. So, for example, there should be more training. The teachers at the school level should have more continuous professional development. They should be very abreast with social media trends, what's happening, because the students use mobile phones and all that. There's not even a clear policy on these things. So I think we need to go back and try as much as possible and address some of these issues. Now, if the schools also have behavior policies, it needs to be laid out clear. It needs to be made clear to the parent, to the student, to the teachers themselves. Because the problem is some teachers do not even understand the behavior policy, whether it's been updated, whether it's been there for 10 years, 20 years. Some of them are not updated. They don't know. Do we understand the law around some of these things? There's a conflicting report again, listening to NAGRAT and to the lawyer, saying that you cannot do this, you cannot do that. Do we really understand the law around some of these things? And that's why I said we should all have cool heads and go back to the behavior policy issues and to understand it much, much better.
Okay.
And if we are able to advise, if at the school level, the school is able to have advisors, they have lawyers, they can come into some of these issues and it wouldn't escalate.
Okay.
This far.
But you're saying that cool heads must prevail at this point, but it appears that the school has taken a strong position that until the hair is cut, these children will not be admitted into the school. GES earlier gave a directive, and it is emerging now that apparently that directive there's a U-turn on that directive. In the meantime, these two children, their education is in limbo, and that's the grave concern for the parents whilst they take the legal option in this particular issue. What then do you reckon should be happening at this point beyond just understanding what the law says about the situation?
Okay, so in my presentation, I said there was a case study in Jamaica in July 2018.
But that issue was about how they are able to keep the hair. It was hygiene issues that came up. In our case, that has not come up yet.
Right. So again, this is difficult. This is a very difficult situation, and you need to manage it properly. Now, a high-profile school like Achimota Sch is going through this. Then the school down the street in my area, what challenges would they face? And so it's very, very important. So at the end of the day, we need to seek the interest of the child. The child needs education. How do we offer that education to that child? How do we ensure that in all this, we do not stop the child from learning? And that's the most important thing. So I believe we have to throw back this question back to GES and to the school. Okay. And from what the lawyer is saying, is that there are options. So if there are options, I think they can look at those options. And if he's genuinely saying that this student can become astronauts or can become lawyers or doctors in future, for me, in my own experience, it does not matter where you go to school. It's your discipline, it's your ability to learn, it's your ability to endure the environment you find yourself, and you can succeed wherever you are. So for me, I think, again, I'll go back to the idea of having a cool head, having this is a clear opportunity for the government, for the schools, for the community to basically know what do we want our children to become in future.
We're grateful for your time. That's Ben Kobla. They're joining us via Zoom. He's an international education consultant and bringing his expertise to bear on this particular issue. At this point, we would want to hear from the Ghana Education Service, also from the Achimota School. We're yet to hear officially from the school, even though the old students have issued a statement in that regard. Maybe the Gender Ministry would also want to hear them on this particular issue, because we are told that there's a backtracking on this. But some parents have been interacting on this on the AM show via Zoom.
I'm with Nagrat.
Okay.
GES has issued a directive. But one thing we must understand as a country is that school is a place where there should be discipline.
Yeah.
So if we start in the class where everyone can do whatsoever you want, then I wonder where we are going to ensure that students are properly modeled up, so that in the near future we will have citizens that will behave responsibly.
The father and the school should have met before.
Okay.
And even the Achimota authorities should have admitted the student first. Then afterwards, they sit down with the father and we communicate. And I don't like what GES did.
Yeah.
It's ad hoc. It's ad hoc. They have to go behind the scenes and meet authorities and talk about this.
Okay.
If you see, society has become a way, maybe. Okay, society in a way, when people see people with dreadlocks and stuff, then they are like, they are bad, they are evil, and they are stuff. But that's not what, because there are people who are Rastafarians, right? Or they have these dreadlocks, but they are in military. You see, so we shouldn't use this stuff to judge people outside.
Yeah.
We know that every institution, we have rules and regulations.
Yes, please.
If we don't follow these rules and regulations, at the end of the day, there will be chaos. Everybody can do whatever he or she will want to do. Because if you are coming to school, you are with a dreadlock.
Yeah.
Someone will also come that I have my religion,
yeah,
or I have my belief. This is what I also want to do. But the school is an institution, and then the rules and regulations governs everybody in the school. If we are going to follow a trend, excuse me to say, like each and everyone is supposed to do whatever he or she likes, the trend will follow, because the boy that you are talking about is from home. The same people are going to grow, and they don't want to abide by rules and regulation that are the institute. Yes. Okay. So if you're going to break it at the end of the day, then everybody is going to follow suit.
Some parents there interacting with Mapito Sibidi on the JoyNews Interactive earlier today. Let's briefly bring in the ranking member on the Education Committee in Parliament as this issue continues to rage. Peter Nochuko-Toy, we're grateful for your time here on the polls. So really, we haven't heard Parliament as these issues unfold at the Achimota School. What exactly have you been picking up in terms of your reading? I'm sure you've been finding out what exactly the way forward will be. Hello?
Hello, yeah.
Thank you very much for your time once again. So I was asking what exactly the position of the committee is on this particular issue with these two students and the admission to Achimota School.
Yeah, thank you very much. Although it has come to the attention of the committee, we are yet to meet on it. We just finished a preparatory meeting for tomorrow, and the Minister for Education, the Director General of Ghana Education Service, and senior officers will be with us tomorrow for the consideration of their estimates and policies. And this is going to be one of the issues that we'll be putting across to them to explain the rationale behind the instructions that they have given and what they think are going to be the ramifications for all schools. Because we feel that this is a floodgate which is being opened, and if it is not controlled, we will see all manner of people coming to our institutions dressed in various forms, and then with a very different hair size, and we will find it very difficult to control it. So we'll meet the Minister and the Director General tomorrow, and they will brief us on the instructions and what they intend to do immediately after this. Okay. Because the situation must be controlled, and if it's not controlled, we will find ourselves in a very big trouble.
Well, we'll wait for that meeting then. Thank you so much for your time. That's the ranking member on the Education Committee in Parliament, Peter Nochu Kotoy. We've not heard the last of this issue. There'll be more subsequently.